Welcome to UNCAGED, a show that celebrates thought leadership from today's top business leaders. The program provides a voice to amazing executives from around the globe who are shaping the world of business today and mapping the path to the commerce of tomorrow. Today, we're speaking with Peter Glantz. Hey, Peter, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm very well. Peter, I wish I'd known you when I started my own business 10 years ago, because what you offer is what all startups need. Peter is the owner of PJG Legal. He is the future of entrepreneurial law. We'll talk about some of the areas that he is developing and building really a lot of IP in right now. But before we get there, Peter, tell us a little bit about yourself and your career.
Sure. I went to the University of Michigan, probably around the same time you did. We both were there around the famous Fab Five team.
We'll leave those rivalries aside for today, Peter.
Against your Christian Laettner and Bobby Hurley Duke team. Admittedly, we never beat them, but we were young and a fun team to watch.
As far as I can see, as I alluded to, I think Duke definitely won at the time, but I think Michigan won the historical battle with Jalen Rose's documentary, etc. So there you go. There you have it.
There you go. He laid the foundation for the historical record. You're right.
Exactly.
Interesting story though, about me getting into Michigan, which I think tells a lot about me. In high school, I was an okay student. Obviously, I got into Michigan, but my grades were, around a B plus. I had pretty good SAT scores, but the admissions counselor probably wanted me to work a little bit harder.
Right.
So everyone else was getting into Michigan. All my friends, Michigan's on rolling admissions.
Right.
So the sooner you apply, in theory, the better chance you have of getting in. So not me. I had to wait and wait and wait. So there was this admissions counselor named, I remember her name, I'll never forget her name, Kathy Philbin, who I kept on calling and calling and calling. Like, I have to get in. I have the SAT scores. I have the AP courses.
Right.
And I have, an okay enough GPA. So finally she made me a deal. She said, second semester, senior year, show me when everyone else is goofing off. They know where all my friends are goofing off in school. They already know where they're going. Show me with your grades that you could do this. You could pull it off. Like, okay, I could do this. Second semester, senior year of high school, I go ahead, I get myself a 4.0 GPA.
Nice.
She calls me up around this time, maybe early April. She calls me up, and I was calling her every day, every other day. I had my guidance counselor calling her. I was on. We had that relationship. She calls me up. She doesn't even say hello. She says, "You wore me down." Congratulations, and the rest was history.
Oh, that's awesome.
So
that's awesome. Well, you got to go for those types of things. Honestly, I always try to tell people that no one's going to represent you unless you represent yourself, right? You really gotta, it's a lesson for all of us in life. So perseverance is key. Yeah. The thing that my father always used to talk about is like taking the initiative, right? Like you took the initiative, you kept calling. Yeah. And, it seems like it, can be annoying and everyone wants to kind of hold themselves back in those situations, but you just got to keep pushing.
Right. So from there, I made the best of it. I was a double major, political science and communications. I think like most people with a liberal arts degree, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. So I took a year off. I worked at a large law firm for um, the former governor of New York,
Hmm.
and I was a paralegal. So I knew I wanted to, get into the legal industry, and
Hmm.
I ended up going to Brooklyn Law School.
Hmm.
And from there, I worked at a large law firm. And at a large law firm, it's great. I can't knock it,
Hmm.
but unless you get lucky with a partner who's going to sit there and really teach you how to practice,
Hmm.
you get thrown to the wolves and you kind of have to learn on your own.
Yeah.
So that wasn't necessarily the right for me. It might work for
Yeah.
some, but it wasn't the right fit for me. So from there, I went to a boutique firm
Hmm.
where they really taught me how to write, how to practice the right way. And I did, at the large firm, I did legal malpractice work. So I
Hmm.
represented other lawyers. And what I liked about that was that each underlying case was different. A
Hmm.
lawyer could screw up on any type of matter, be it securities cases, real estate cases, corporate transaction. And in order to show malpractice, you have to show that the lawyer not just screwed up, but that the underlying matter was a bona fide one. I'll give you an
Right.
example. In a personal injury matter, if a lawyer screws up on a statute of limitations, blows a statute of limitations, if the underlying case was not a valid or bona fide case to begin with,
Hmm.
there's no malpractice.
Right.
So I was learning all different types of cases at the large firm, which was
Yeah.
great. And it exposed me to a wide array of different areas of the law. And it taught me that I didn't want to necessarily specialize in one area. You
Right.
know, they call it the practice of law for a reason.
Yeah, no, I get it. And I think that the range of solutions needed now in your kind of target market is pretty broad.
Yeah.
You've built this business now focused on folks really like me, right? Working with entrepreneurs that are desperate for good, solid legal advice. Tell me a little bit about how that's developed and what areas you guys are focusing on.
I will. So, you know, not all entrepreneurs necessarily, and I'll be honest, like my model. Some prefer to go to a specialist for this, a specialist for that, a specialist for
Yeah.
this, you know, and that's okay. But, you know, if you're a business owner, if you're an entrepreneur, you could have employment issues, you could have IP issues, you could have daily transactions. And that's not to say that I am going to do everything. I don't. I prefer stuff to larger firms, when stuff is outside my lane. One of
Right.
my biggest strengths is knowing when I can't do something or it's outside of my lane and, I haven't seen it before. But at the same time, I'm not stupid. I'm smart. I could learn it,
Yeah.
or I could pick up the phone. I have a wide array of resources. I have a vast network of other lawyers, other friends who I could speak to and understand it. And
Yeah, I also would say that as an entrepreneur, the challenge with any legal issue is we don't know enough as a business owner to know exactly what is needed for every situation, right? So, I mean, I can't tell you how many times where I've reached out to counsel and they've said, no, 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 you don't need to worry about this because of this other reason, or actually this is not what you think it is, this is something else. So you have to, I mean, I think that counsel that you have with that holistic perspective is extremely valuable.
and not only that, because someone like you who's been in business now for what, 10 years, I think you
Yeah, a
said?
little bit over 10.
A
Yeah.
little bit over 10. You've read some of these contracts many times, and you understand what you're reading. You're sophisticated.
Mhm.
You've been down this road before. You've taken on investors
Yeah.
before. You've read an operating agreement before, a shareholder agreement before. Generally speaking, we could work together. And if you're a smart enough entrepreneur, for the most part, yes, you need an attorney, but you know what you're getting yourself into by being a businessman.
Mhm.
One of my biggest clients tells me all the time. Number one, keep it simple.
Mhm.
Number two, you could teach a lawyer how to do business, but you can't teach a businessman the law.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And so, I mean, look, you've built this business at a time where I think what they're saying that in the next 10 years, there'll be more innovation than what's happened over the last 100 or some crazy statistic like that. We have new fields that have developed every day, whether it be the push into sustainable businesses, into cannabis, the burgeoning cannabis industry, for every athlete in college, name, image, likeness challenges. I mean, tell me a little bit about what's the type of stuff that you're focusing on and where you're seeing opportunity.
So in those specific areas, there's tremendous opportunity. I'd like to parlay my intellectual property, experience into NIL. It should be a burgeoning, industry. It is now. It's just starting. There's going to be a whole host of issues that will sort of shake itself out as time goes on. Um, but there will be transactions, there will be litigation. I think part of what makes me a good attorney is my both litigation and transactional background, because to transactions, I'm able to bring a litigation eye to those deals. So my clients very rarely um, get into litigation due to my contracts,
Mm-hmm.
um, thereby saving them money on the back end. Um, and anytime they do, it's probably because they wanted some flexibility in the contracts themselves,
Mm-hmm.
um, which they're the client, they're entitled to.
So,
Um,
Peter, when you're working with customers, do you find that you're getting in with them literally at kind of stage one, or when they're just getting going as businesses, or when they have a particular challenge? What's the entry points?
it depends. Some clients come to me on day one, where I'm literally starting with their formation,
Mm-hmm.
and if it's an LLC operating agreement, if it's a C corp, their uh, shareholder agreement. Others come in at a later stage where they're raising capital, and we're bringing in outside investors, and have to deal with that type of transaction. But what I provide is, at least from a fee perspective, is a fixed fee on a monthly basis for those businesses, those family office, those high net worth clients who want their sort of outsourced general counsel
Mm-hmm.
to be there, to be able to pick up the phone, know I'm there, respond to emails, be there for them, 24/7 as sort of their consigliere.
Right.
And in exchange, I get that recurring revenue for them. That's not to
Yeah.
say that they don't have other lawyers, but in terms of their day-to-day contracts, anything that pops up, for some.
What you just said, it's so funny, is so unbelievably important. Obviously, it sounds like it's important to the clients, the customers that you work with that are like in maybe family offices and things like that as well. It's critical also in the entrepreneurial area because you're trying to budget your monthly expenses tightly. And the challenge with legal costs I've found is they just can vary, with your kind of traditional law firms, 1 month it'll be nothing. And the next month you'll be paying, half your life savings. And you're just like, what the hell happened? Right. So,
It allows entrepreneurs to take risks on deals that they otherwise wouldn't pursue. Right. Because if you have to go and spend X dollars on a transaction that you may or may not want to pursue, you're not sure about, you could, if you're on a fixed fee with me, go ahead, go test it out. You're paying me anyway, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, listen, I mean, I've got a million questions, Peter. Before I do what probably people do with you at cocktail parties and start asking you for legal advice, let me kind of shift the gears and ask about the last couple of years, because what I've seen with the pandemic, certainly we all faced a lot of personal challenges, but it acted very much as like an acceleration to innovation, strangely enough, where I think everyone kind of dug a little bit deeper to figure out how the hell am I going to survive? Where am I going to go? What's it going to look like? So just be curious to hear about what the last couple of years have been like for you guys, what insights you've learned, and how it's shaping up going forward.
For me, my personal business blossomed during the pandemic, and I tried hard. I didn't take advantage of clients. I didn't bill for a while, but
Those were those early months, right? That was tough.
you couldn't, you couldn't. But at the same time, I had clients calling nonstop. Especially with a lot of PPP questions, a lot of, EIDL questions, and that sort of stuff. And, I have core clients, and then I also have one-off clients that, I try to convert to a core clients, eventually, but that takes time. You have to build that sort of trust. And I get that. It's slow. Trust is not something that happens overnight.
Yeah.
So that's understandable. But I'm not the type of person that's gonna, kind of shun anyone away, especially during a global pandemic. But thank God for my core business, my core clients. And I was okay during that time. But at the same time, there were businesses like Ring Central. I have a friend over at Ring Central who is very good to me for his business. His business blossomed. That stock blossomed. The industries like that. And now we're seeing, other industries, like you mentioned, new legislation, like the marijuana legislation, which that wasn't necessarily impacted by COVID. But although one could make the argument that maybe there is a tie to marijuana usage and COVID.
Maybe. Yeah.
Who knows? But
perhaps there's definitely a connection between states needing more revenue. That's for sure.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. So what's going to happen now? They pass the legislation. They're going to tax marijuana usage, and the revenue is going to go up.
That's cool. I mean, I love all of those emerging spaces, and I think that if I boil down kind of one of the key insights from the last couple of years for you, it seems to me that flexibility was the key, right? You had to be able to offer that advice And so many things are changing all the time that really legal advice became critical. I would say that, some of the trends that I see that have been really big for us have been making sure that we stay at the right level and kind of abreast of the changes in the privacy landscape, right? So as information and privacy issues change here as well as in Europe, that we make sure that we continue to update, make sure that everything is structured correctly. And it's tough because it changes a lot fast. So I'd be curious to hear kind of what are the key things that you're seeing that are popping on the landscape right now that a lot of your customers are thinking about. What are the top priorities for 2022?
In terms of privacy?
No, just in general, just like kind of broader kind of entrepreneurial legal issues. Because I mean, if you remember, like I feel like during the pandemic, suddenly this whole new idea of what a SPAC was appeared. And everyone was like, what the hell is a SPAC? Like, unless you're like a finance person, nobody, I thought it was like a kind of a new form of spam or something. And suddenly SPAC, no, you gotta be, what's your SPAC plan? And I was like, we don't have a SPAC plan,
I think that what we're going to see is a lot of movement towards protecting intellectual property for the metaverse. And I think that is going to be a big problem and a big issue going forward. Because right now it's a little bit of the wild, wild west. And I know a little bit about the Wild West because I have a domain name background. I was heavily involved in the sale of the largest domain in the history of the internet.
Oh, wow.
And I've been involved with some of the largest transactions, domain name transactions in the history of the internet. So I'm very familiar with, sort of how the wild, wild west worked in the domain space. And I think if I'm correct, I think in terms of intellectual property protection and the metaverse, you're going to see a lot of companies running to start to either have to litigate and protect their IP in the metaverse, or just running to either trademark or protect their IP, out of concern that there's going to be infringement in the metaverse.
It's a great challenge. It's a big problem for sure. I'm hoping blockchain helps in some way, but maybe I think it perhaps opens more problems as well. So that's a great point, Peter. And so, as you look forward over the next year, will you guys be, what areas do you guys think you're going to be focused more on?
So, I have, clients. I went to the crypto conference last year.
Oh, cool.
Down in Miami. And my takeaway is that the blockchain is for legit. It's for, and I could be wrong, but I'm not sold yet on the currencies. That's my opinion, and I try. I've spoken to the Bitcoins and all these different coins, and I've spoken to really smart people. I have a pretty vast network, and I'm in touch with Wharton educated, Duke educated, Ross educated, and to the T, maybe they own some Bitcoin. But to the T, they each tell me that blockchain, yes, currencies, nah, maybe.
Yeah, that's probably fair. I would say that, so I'm based down in Miami, and it's quite a vibrant entrepreneurial scene right now, heavily focused on Web3 and blockchain and crypto. And so, the conference that you attended last year, I definitely went over there this year. It reminded me of the .com era a little bit, where you had that kind of vibrancy where people were talking about ideas, and there would be like these half-baked projects and token offerings, and it is very, very hard to know what is real, to be honest. Like you really need counsel to walk through it, because so much of it is just BS. And but if you can find the veins of true digital gold there, they are the things that are going to restructure the whole world, for sure.
Don't get me wrong. People have made money. They've made a ton
so much money. Yeah.
I have a friend who trades, and I'm sure he's made a ton of money trading the currency. Yeah. But for me and my client personally, number one, I don't have the time to sit there and trade Bitcoin. I mean, that's just not for me.
No, I know, but like you take like a currencies like like Solana or any of these types of things, you start to say how things like these things could be repurposed for perhaps bypassing MasterCard or Visa, right? Like, do we really need to be having just those kind of box cart solutions anymore? The answer really is, in a proper structured blockchain environment, yes, those companies have the global distribution, but there probably will be serious competition. I mean, just think how much, I don't know if you ever had many retail customers, but the fees that those companies charge are outrageous. So
I do. I have a retail customer in Virginia Beach who has furniture stores all over the country.
Yeah, imagine if you told them that they didn't have to pay that fee anymore. You'd get the biggest hug of your life.
But, at some point though, just like we were talking about marijuana, right? At some point, regulation, with marijuana, at some point, there's going to have to be federal regulation in order for that industry to really blossom, right? Because you have to transact interstate. With crypto, you're sitting here with the possibility of regulation that is still out there, and that's risk. Yeah. And as a lawyer, I don't necessarily love risk.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And hopefully you can protect those people that are of a slightly higher risk profile, for sure. Peter, it's been amazing talking with you today. If someone wanted to get in touch with you, where can they find you?
My website is www.pjglegal.com. And that's probably the best place that you could find out all about me. It's got all the information about me, what I do, the services I provide. They could take it from there.
Awesome. Well, we've been speaking with Peter Glantz. He is the owner of PJG Legal. He's working with entrepreneurs, folks in the NIL space, the cannabis space, family offices that are making entrepreneurial investments, across the board, anybody who's kind of those SMB businesses that are pushing into kind of the legal need phase, I would say. Peter's the guy. Peter, thank you so much for taking us through the landscape today, and look forward to talking to you again.
Thanks so much. I appreciate your time.
Cheers.